We didn't think NaLyssa Smith was a good fit,
and the Fever barely took on any extra salary, and they have now got themselves a like. They've now caught themselves a player that's significantly better than NaLyssa Smith. Can shoot a little bit complacent defense. The Indiana Fever just sent shockwaves through the WNBA. NaLyssa Smith is out traded to the Dallas Wings, and in her place comes the fiery, no-nonsense Sophie Cunningham. But instead of taking the news in stride, Smith wasted no time letting the world know exactly how she felt. And trust me, it wasn't pretty. Was this trade a win for Caitlin Clark? And why did the Fever go the extra mile to move on from Smith? Buckle up, because this is about to get messy hair again. NaLyssa Smith and the number 8 pick from Indiana. The number 8 pick from Indiana, guys. What does Indiana get? Indiana gets Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham. And the number 19 pick. I have not processed this yet. Whoa, you like, let's be real, the writing was on the wall. The Indiana Fever weren't just making roster moves, they were making a statement. They wanted NaLyssa Smith gone. Why? Because she was becoming a problem. And if you've been following the saga, you know there was no way she could stay after what went down last season. Let's talk facts. Smith was already on thin ice, but she completely shattered it when she decided to mock her own teammate after an alleged incident. That moment said everything about who she was. And in a locker room where trust and chemistry are everything, there's no room for a player who publicly disrespects teammates. The Fever had seen enough. Most players, when traded, at least tried to keep it professional. Not NaLyssa Smith. The second she was sent packing, she made it crystal clear how she felt about Indiana. No appreciation post, no thank you to the organization, just bitterness, shade, and a whole lot of victim mentality. And here it's always just get better. And so we were fortunate enough to make the playoffs this year. Even just being there, it was huge for us. Just to say we were there as a young team, you know, it just shows, you know, what the RFE for you to persevere in a year where there were some ups and downs. My family, my girlfriend, that's probably the biggest thing that helped me this year. You know, when you're good, you gotta have people to leave. She thinks she was mistreated in Indiana. She might want to take a long look in the mirror. This wasn't bad luck. This was the Fever cleaning house and getting rid of toxic energy. And who did Indiana bring in to replace Smith? Sophie Cunningham, a player who isn't just tough, but actually fits with Caitlin Clark's playstyle. Cunningham brings energy, grit, and most importantly, she's not going to throw shade at her teammates on social media. She's the kind of player who will go to war for her team, and that's exactly what Clark needs. Fever fans, you tell me, doesn't this sound like an upgrade? All season long, we've watched Clark take brutal hits with little protection from her teammates. It felt like she was stranded on an island, forced to fend for herself, while players like Smith stood by and did nothing. But now, with Cunningham stepping in, the Fever just got a whole lot tougher. Finally, Clark might have someone who actually has her back, something she's been missing all season. Let's rewind to 2022. NaLyssa Smith was supposed to be the future of the Indiana Fever. She arrived as the second overall pick, a high-energy forward expected to dominate the boards and help give Indiana a fresh start after years of mediocrity. And for a moment, it looked like she just might live up to the hype. Rebuild. This is an Indiana team won her rookie year solid. She averaged 13 points and 8 rebounds per game. Not bad at all. Fever fans had hope, but as the seasons rolled on, that spark started to fade. Fast forward to 2024, and Smith was no longer the high-intensity game changer Indiana had envisioned. The fire gone, the energy lacking. Instead of stepping up as a leader, she became just another piece the Fever needed to move on from. So WNBA fans are losing their mind. They're calling conspiracy. They're calling conspiracy about the, and as if fate had a sense of humor, 2024 brought the Indiana Fever a player who would completely change the trajectory of not just their franchise, but the entire WNBA. Enter Caitlin Clark. The contrast couldn't be more glaring. On one hand, you had NaLyssa Smith, a once promising player who never quite reached her potential. On the other, a generational talent, a rookie already outshining veterans, selling out arenas and redefining women's basketball. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly why Smith had a problem with her. If you've been paying attention, you already know about the infamous Instagram incident. Instead of embracing Clark as a teammate, Smith sided with one of the biggest anti-Clark instigators, Deja Carrington, who, by the way, just happens to be her girlfriend. Coincidence? I think not. Let's be real, that little stumped on social media was ugly. No way around it. That's not leadership, that's not professionalism, and most of all, that's not how you treat a teammate. And the Fever, oh, they took notes the moment that happened. It became clear Smith's days in Indiana were numbered. But here's the kicker, they didn't just cut her loose immediately. Nope, they played the long game. They protected Smith, not because they had long-term plans for her, but because they needed leverage. The goal was always to get a good deal for her while making sure she was gone for good. And now that plan has come full circle, let's be honest, Fever fans are relieved. Smith wasn't just a disappointment on the court, she was a problem in the locker room. That mockery on Instagram, the final straw. And now that she's out, there's a collective thank goodness from the Fever faithful with Smith gone and Sophie Cunningham stepping in. The Fever are turning the page. No more locker room toxicity, no more drama, just a team finally building toward the future. And for Caitlin Clark, this might just be the best thing that's happened to her all season. It's always coach that was always being on my butt about hustling. Working hard, do the little things. Could the little things gonna take you a long way? And when I got the minutes that I played my rookie year, I took every advantage of it. And I'm happy to be back next to her playing with her. Here's the thing, losing Smith doesn't weaken the Indiana Fever. If anything, it makes them even stronger. And if you haven't been paying attention, let's break down why this team is about to be absolutely unplayable this season. Let's start with the reinforcements. First up, Natasha Howard, a 3-time WNBA champion, an elite defender, and an absolute nightmare in the paint. She brings championship experience and a level of toughness this team desperately needed. With Caitlin Clark last year, the turnovers became this thing. It was like butter turnovers, because there was nothing else to say. Right, like you couldn't talk about adjustments of the league. You couldn't talk about any other aspect of her game. The only negative that was tangible and could be focused on was the turnovers. So you heard that over and over again because it was the only argument left. And now with these additions to the Fever roster, I think what you see is the realization that Clark championship, that Fever championship is coming sooner rather than later. Then you got to Wanna Bonner, one of the most versatile scorers in the league. She's got size, she's got skill, and most importantly, she's got that veteran presence to help guide this young squad to the next level. And then there's Sophie Cunningham. If you think Caitlin Clark needed someone to have her back, this is it. Sophie is tough, she's aggressive, and she doesn't take nonsense from anyone. If anyone even thinks about getting nasty with Caitlin Clark, Cunningham is sending them straight to the R. Now, let's talk about the real beauty of this squad, the offense. Last season defenses could key in on Caitlin Clark because she was the sole focal point, but now this Fever team is stacked with weapons. Think about it. When Caitlin is threading passes in the half court, you focus on. If you leave Howard open, she's finishing at the rim. If you ignore Bonner, she's lighting you up from mid-range. And if you let Cunningham get going, well, she's not just hitting threes, she's taking her head off while doing it. This means one thing: Caitlin Clark is finally free to do what she does best. She can create. She can take those deep threes without being doubled, and most importantly, she can make some of the craziest plays we've ever seen. If you thought last season was wild, just wait. Now that she's surrounded by talent, this offense is about to be deadly, and for the rest of the WNBA, it's a problem. Thanks for watching and subscribe my channel.